Initially, the Browns are ruled out, and then all of a sudden, he changes course and he wants to go there. Now they paid him a crazy contract extension. That had to be the differentiating factor between why he chose the Browns.
The Browns maybe are kind of taking the Rams approach after them picks. One of the biggest things we've been waiting for as NFL community for almost over a year at this point is Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of different rumors, a lot of it was really unclear where he's going to go, but some teams kind of finally came to surface. Looked like it was between the Saints, for the Panthers, Browns, and the Falcons were kind of as late coming, especially the Falcons. Apparently, it was more Deshaun reaching out to them, which created a whole other fiasco. But a lot of misdirections here because I think that the morning, what's happened, like Thursday morning, I believe, Wednesday morning, I forget. But I remember that morning, report came out, Browns were reportedly told out. However, a few hours later, things changed and trade became official. Shaun Watson traded to the Cleveland Browns. I'll have the trade details here. Basically, Houston got what they wanted. They have 3 first-round picks from Cleveland for 2022, 2023, and 2024. And they also got Cleveland's 2023 third-round pick and a 2024 fourth-round pick. And then obviously the Browns get Watson, and I believe it's a 5th-round pick as well. So and then they also rewarded Watson with a new contract. But nonetheless, John, what were your thoughts on the trade? And just your general reaction.
I was kind of shocked at the price. I thought it was going to be a lot higher. Not that wasn't like a massive price, because I think this is the only trade in NFL history besides the Herschel Walker trade back in like the 90s, or maybe it was the 80s, somewhere around there, that they've been 3 first-round picks in a single trade. So, I mean, obviously this price tag is massive, but we were hearing that, it was specifically reported about the Panthers, that if the Panthers were going to get him, it was going to take like 3 first-round picks, among other picks, and a player or 2. And the players they were mentioning was like J.C. Horn, Brian Burns, Derek Brown, like young guys who are studs. So I kind of expected that the price was going to be even higher than it was. So overall, I think that's a win for the Browns. They didn't have to include any players, because if you're going to lose that much draft capital, it's going to be tough to, build your roster. Luckily for the Browns, they already have a pretty good roster. Obviously you got a franchise pass rusher in Myles Garrett, who's, one of the best in the league, if not the best defensive end. And then, you got a great corner in Denzel Ward. Like, you got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. You just traded for Amari Cooper. So, like, you have a lot of pieces over there, solid offensive line. And so I think this is a big win for the Browns, although it's a massive price tag. Deshaun Watson, he's an incredibly young quarterback. I think he's still under 25, or he is 25. So he's incredibly young. Now they paid him a crazy contract extension, even though his other contract extension hadn't even started yet. All it did was basically give him a raise, and it turned all of his money to guaranteed. I think that had to be the differentiating factor between why he chose the Browns, because like you said, initially the Browns are ruled out, and then all of a sudden he changes course and he wants to go there. I have to imagine the Browns said, okay, if you come here, we'll give you a fully guaranteed contract, and that appealed to him, because I don't know why else he would have changed his mind. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to list, it is a 5-year, $230 million contract, $184 million over the first 4 years. Which is a $48 million raise, according to ESPN. And obviously fully guaranteed.
Yeah, most guaranteed money in NFL history. So, I mean, it was a massive contract extension. So, like I said, I think that had to be the reason that he flipped over to Cleveland. And honestly, I mean, his other contract is already massive anyway. So, like, if that's the differentiator between you having Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson, is committing that much money since he's been cleared criminally, I don't see what the problem is. I think some people might have an issue with that kind of money, but I'm under the assumption that in the NFL these days, you do what it takes to get your quarterback, and once you have them, then you start to build around them. But you do whatever it takes. That's why, when the Packers go out and they give Aaron Rodgers that massive contract, like you got to keep a quarterback like that. When the Browns do this, you got to keep that quarterback. When the Bengals and the Chargers and these teams eventually pay Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert the crazy amount of money that they're probably going to get in a couple of years, that's what you got to do, because the NFL is quarterback driven. So I like the trade for the Browns. My biggest concern with Watson going to a team like the Falcons or the Panthers potentially even the Saints, was that it felt like those rosters weren't necessarily good enough to win a Super Bowl right now. And when you don't have that draft capital, it's going to be hard to build around that guy, especially with how he's already on a massive contract. For the Browns, I don't think that's as big an issue. Now the problem for them is they're in the AFC, and Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, like the list. Derek Carr and the Raiders now. Like the list is just it's going to be tough to compete out there. I didn't even mention Lamar Jackson. Like there's so many competitive teams and quarterbacks in that conference that I'm not sure they're necessarily going to win a Super Bowl. But this puts them in the conversation for sure. So I think it was a good trade for the Browns, and I think for the Texans, it's a major win. He wasn't going to stay anyway. There's just too much controversy, too much stuff that I know a lot of Texans fans, because obviously we both live in Texas, and they're very happy that this time is over, that he's gone. They got a lot of draft picks that they can, look towards rebuilding their team with. So I think both sides are pretty happy.
Yeah. You mentioned you thought the price tag would be, you thought they'd get more. Honestly, I thought they'd get less, mainly because I thought as a team, a team that wasn't Houston, a trade partner, I thought they would hold him by the cojones more. But like, hey, like Deshaun has a no trade clause and he wants to come here, so we don't have to give you as much, because otherwise, if we know he's not going to play for you, but I guess you know the Rams are not the Rams. The Browns maybe are kind of taking the Rams approach. F them picks. We're gonna go all in. I mean, when you think about it, Cleveland has been forever looking for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. Especially I'm just talking about on the field. And everyone wants to also bring up they passed on Deshaun Watson on that draft. They traded the pick that became Deshaun Watson, and it's kind of haunted them ever since. They grabbed Baker first overall, which I know I think we watched the draft together that day, like for our Xbox party. I think even I'm not sure if you were there, but I have others that were there too. And we confirmed, like even I was like, Baker's not a number one overall pick. Like he was a first round quarterback, but I'm not. Doesn't scream number one overall type talent. And I think we kind of saw that. But in regards to Watson and the fit, you mentioned, yeah, I think this was probably the best team, at least talent wise, he could go to. With Atlanta, you don't know if you're even gonna get Calvin Ridley back this year. Their line's still kind of sorting out the best. So after that, your best options are Kyle Pitts, who's going to his second year, and Cordell Patterson, who's obviously shown moments of being a playmaker, but there's a reason he's kind of hopped around the league, is because he really hasn't found a home. And then the Saints, who knows if Michael Thomas is still going to be a Saint? That's something that I feel like hasn't really been talked about, because he's been putting out some interesting tweets. And then they
have you seen the recent one after the trade and all?
I think he said like I
said
remember
something like not surprised.
Yeah, not surprised.
Whenever it came
I
out,
think he put hashtag who dat or who day. Like, isn't that the same thing? So, I feel like he's just trying to work his way out of there. I don't know what's going on with that. They have a solid line, but once again, new head coach and Dennis Allen. I know he's did a great job as defensive coordinator, but like we mentioned before, it's different moving up from coordinator to head coach, especially when you have to follow up on Sean Payton. So. Right. And then once again, no receivers either. Sorry,
yeah, and on the offensive line thing, Teron Armstead is still out there in free agency, so he might leave.
So, yeah, big question mark there. And then Carolina, we know they have issues with their O-line, and so, it ultimately this was the best roster fit. You have now Amari Cooper. You have a solid offensive line. You have a run game. Some things, especially the line and run game, something that the Deshaun's never had in Houston. On top of talent, top end talent on the other side, like you mentioned with Myles Garrett, or my guy JOK started coming on at the end of the season. They still have Denzel Ward. I almost said Jarvarius, wrong word. So they have talent. So yeah, on the field, this was a great move for the Browns, and yeah, it's worth mortgaging your future, especially if now that you have Watson, they're gonna be late round picks anyway, late first, especially maybe not this year, but going forward. So. And like we mentioned in last podcast, you have to hit on those picks to make them work anyway, so it's like a lottery ticket. But yeah, credit to the Browns, and yeah, I'm with you. I know a lot of people. There's a lot of rightly criticism, of the Browns. How could you give him this contract right away with all the stuff that's happened? But I think he had a very good point in that this may have been the tipping point. The Browns may have said, "Damn, like he's gonna go elsewhere. Well, screw it. We got to do what we got to do to win." And if we're being honest, and we're probably all gonna forget about this in 2 months, 3 months. It's a sad fact. That's the NFL. Another big signing, another big trade could happen, and this goes out of our minds. At least most NFL fans' minds. So we'll see. Obviously, come first few weeks how the fans, actual fans, react and such. Cleveland fans, other team fans, but nonetheless, they're right in the conversation for the AFC. So,
And I do want to add real quick too that I believe they still have like 15 million in cap space,
yeah.
and that's before a potential trade to get rid of Baker Mayfield. So, Deshaun going there too, they could add some free agents still that could push them even closer to being a contender. I haven't heard any specific names that they're linked to, but I know that when a major quarterback moves like that, all of a sudden guys become more interested in potentially going there because they think they can win a ring. So keep your eyes on the Browns after a potential Baker Mayfield trade, maybe sign some people.
Yeah, so we'll see there.